Hello everybody, welcome back to the BSDF1 podcast. It's finally been a race after what feels like 3 years. We're here, Azerbaijan has happened. We woke up from that Grand Prix because oh my was it boring, boys, wasn't it?
It was awful. Yeah.
That was proper. Leo, what year was it? 2016 Baku?
First year, yeah.
First year, where it was the most boring thing in history. That was...
Baku, it comes across as very overrated, or not very, but slightly overrated. Like, it's had its moments of obviously 2018 with Red Bull, the 2017 with Vettel and Hammer, but not much really happened.
I don't know, Leo. I don't know, mate. It's had better racing than a lot of other tracks.
Better races, but people,
this year especially
people go,
was
bad. People say, it's the best street circuit and all that, and it probably
Jeddah
is,
now,
Definitely
Jeddah.
I
mean, Jeddah wasn't even that amazing.
Yeah, but it's Jeddah, isn't it? It's like it's a spectacle. That Baku straight arguably is boring.
Yeah, especially now they reduced down the DRS.
Why did they shorten the DRS? Yeah, I feel like that ruined it a lot.
It was like they shortened it by 100 yards, which was huge, or 100 meters, whatever it was. Not 100 meters, that's massive. But they shortened it by 100 yards or so, which maybe it should have only been 50 because the Red Bulls, it didn't matter. Did you see, by the way, that when Verstappen overtook Leclerc, he was 30 kilometers an hour faster? And here's an interesting note. Verstappen can only drive better in a straight line. That was a direct quote from Sky Sports.
I saw already.
They said he's faster in a slipstream.
Oh my God, I left the window open. The window's open.
Terrible. Well, let's leave that one in.
That literally describes your quote there.
Yeah, that's the Baku Grand Prix in a nutshell, everybody. Ice cream. You know what? I saw Christian Horner made this statement to Sky. It might have been this year, it might have been the year before. And I'll quote it from Sky Sports. It's Verstappen about Hamilton on speed. So Sector 1 is more driver focused, and Sector 2 and 3 are more about the engine. Anyone can drive in a straight line. And then they showed a graphic of Verstappen against Perez. And Verstappen is good in turns 12, 13, 14, which are straights. And then 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, which are also straights. So everywhere else, Perez dominated, which is slow speed cornering. So, yeah.
Do you know what? It looks
like he got roasted by that one.
He had a stinker. Verstappen was... He didn't have a good weekend. He had the kerfuffle with George, which was embarrassing, to say the least.
Can I just make a comment on that?
Do you know
really
what got me?
Can I just make a really quick comment on that?
You're going to, go for it.
This is actually quite serious in my mind, because for my niece and nephew, they watch Formula One. They love it. They got into it when it was 2021. They are 5 and... Jesus Christ. So they are 5 and 3, I believe, or 6 and 4. Can't remember the split. And they're going to be watching the TV because they love racing. But they're not going to be like following it like us diehard fans, or even like my brother who's going to be watching all the radio comms. But they're going to pick up on this like body language and even maybe the swearing elements and go, "Dad, what was that? Why is he saying that?" As a role model to young kids, Max Verstappen should not be waiting for George. You can see him waiting at the end of the sprint race. You can see him waiting physically to have an altercation with George. And it's almost like Red Bull thrive off that, because Christian Horner said afterwards...
So it's GP, wasn't it? It's what he said.
Yeah, GP fires it all up. He makes it work. But Christian Horner's like, he's lucky to leave his helmet on. Kind of like, Max Verstappen's going to knock his block off. And you're like, mate, really? But for me... Go on, Leo.
Sorry, there's a time when it becomes a problem, because like look at Brazil 2018, where he literally searched for Ocon and started pushing him and all that and calling him whatever. Certain things.
But it's different now. He's a world champion.
Do you remember? Leo will remember the cool-down room in Brazil 2018.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
yes.
Where Lewis Hamilton
he tried to tell Lewis.
Actually said. Lewis said to Max that he has more to lose than you do up in front. And that's exactly the same
but
thing
also,
that played
Lewis
at
said
Baku.
also at that point
George
as well,
has more to lose than Max.
He said at that point as well, he's fully entitled to try and unlap himself as the car to do that. So for Max and George to go into each other like that, and I think George has got more to say. Like, he's correct. Like, the tyres it's lap 1 incident. Like, tyres might be cold, all that kind of jazz. And that's fair. But I think more to the point, the cars are really wide. So more to the point about tyres, I don't think that's nothing. They should warm them up. That's on them. Yeah. But the cars are far too wide, and if we're going to be really hypercritical, Max did close off the corner when he should allowed George Russell a little bit more space. And Karun Chandok on Sky was saying, yeah, he did give him a bit of racing room, but these cars are so wide, and if you close the corner just a little bit too much, you know, he's going to have to hit an apex at an awkward angle, which he did, and as a result, kick out. And we saw that happen again with Oscar Piastri and someone else, can't remember Albon in the race, and it like sent him back like a second or two. So I just think Max Verstappen, as usual, racing to 110% every time, everywhere, and he should just have relented, because a lap late he got him anyway and finished third.
The biggest takeaways as well was Will Buxton mentioned about him how ironic it was, and then you've got Damon Hill. Did you see what Damon Hill said?
Oh, Damon Hill roasted him. Yeah,
Damon Hill. It was just like, what a baby, grow up. Like, basically what he said. Cry me a river, lad. Get on with it.
But the worst.
But I'm surprised Damon Hill didn't bring up about losing a championship to Michael Schumacher by being taken out by him, because he always likes to bring that one up.
Oh, but I'm surprised though. If I was just Red Bull and Max, your best thing you could have done after this whole situation is just left it at lap 3. Just leave it there. But GP,
and it's the thing. It's GP. He digs it in. Great overtake, Max, because you know how to overtake without hitting people.
I think it's
chill,
Verstappen he just doesn't seem to like let go these things. So like with Russell, I don't think Russell was in the wrong. I think he had every right to race.
Entitled.
It's a street circuit. That's always going to happen. But they were next to each other. So I don't know what he expected Russell to do. But yeah, I think Max holds on to things too much, which he doesn't need to do, because like JC said, a lap later, he's going to fly past him.
He's got him.
And then that's it.
As soon as the DRS opened,
he's got him.
Didn't even have DRS and he just still went.
He got him. Yeah, literally
I feel like he needs to just let stuff go. Like Brazil, he should have just kind of let go. I know he lost the race win, but...
Brazil wasn't even about Brazil, was it? It was about Monaco, apparently.
About Monaco.
Monaco,
a year prior.
Right, really, mate?
But it's these silly little things that Red Bull seem to keep harbouring with their... on every single race weekend, right?
You can't get...
I also don't agree with...
I saw a tweet.
Go on, Josh,
someone brought up about the FIA rules about misconduct. And I know this is getting a bit like Max bashing, but I think it has to be said, if the rules exist for a reason for misconduct, no racer should go to like what he did and not square up, because he wasn't squaring up. It was just sort of saying how he felt about it. It's more, I think you should do that
live on camera.
Yeah, you shouldn't do it on live on camera. Shouldn't do it in front of like thousands of photographers. Especially shouldn't do it in front of the live broadcast. You should do that in the drivers' press conferences or whatever they had with the race director or anything. That's where the commentary should be done, behind closed doors.
The Red Bull, Red Bull PR team must have an absolute nightmare with him. Like, they must have a nightmare every time.
I think they love it.
Don't say anything.
No, I think that's what they want. I think Red Bull as a team, the whole marketing thing is like the whole world is against them, and they thrive off that. And if that's what they want, then fine.
Yes.
But more to my point about being a role model, that is not great for young kids. As a two-time world champion, that isn't great. That's not good to see. You know, you want people that are going to come out and say, yeah, he got a broken car and he still finished third. That's amazing. And then he went up to George and shook his hand and said, look, water under the bridge. That's a better sportsman. But he went out, started grizzling, got crying about like the incident and a broken car. Mate's like, mate, you've still finished third. Like, it's not even a second. Or you finished. Like, it's a good result.
He only has the eyes to win races, and is brilliant, and is a really good thing, right? Like, I only want to win races. I don't want to come P2. I'm only here to win. But people are better than you. You do need to realise that there are people in circumstances that are just better than you at some time. And I think that's where he gets confused. Hang on a minute, what? But I'm in the fastest car and I'm the best driver. Yeah, but sometimes there are other drivers that are faster than you, like Perez was today. No, that's literally impossible. Like, I'm the main character.
I've got two questions here then. So my first one is, do you believe Max believes he's entitled to all the racing room because he's world champion and it's Max Verstappen? That's my first question.
Oh, I'll go first. Sir.
Have it.
Can I answer?
Yep, go for it.
I don't think he's entitled. I don't think it's that deep.
No, do you believe he's entitled? He thinks he is. Not he is. He believes.
Oh no. See, no, I don't think he believes he is. I think all racing drivers think they're the best. A racing driver without an ego is not a racing driver. The thing with Max is a very emotional driver, and has his heart on his sleeve, and will always say what's on his mind, which is bad, but also sometimes it's quite good. He'll always call out nonsense, much like the sprint weekend format. My opinion was a bit of a shamble, but Max was like, it's terrible, instead of sugarcoating it. So I think it's wears his heart on his sleeves, say it how he sees it, even if it's wrong. The thing that I don't like is look back and then apologise. When the race finished, well done, Perez. You did a great drive, mate. Congratulations. It's a little shake hands and sod off. And it's stuff like that. I mean, Max hasn't won a race now. What he won, I know it was Australia last, not the other one. But yeah, so Perez has been doing a mighty good job. And I think Max is like, oh my God, I've got to do something here. And yeah, so I don't think it's anything like that. I think that being it, he feels he is entitled. I think he's the ego that comes with drivers. And the thing of, well, I want to win. And because he's so emotional, that comes across really quite arrogant and
Leo, what do you think? Do you believe he's entitled? Or level with entitlement?
I agree with Josh. No, I agree with Josh. I think when you
clip what he said. Clip it. Yes.
When you have that amount of talent, I do feel like you're allowed to have some sense of entitlement, because I think any driver would be lying if they said they didn't. You know, Hamilton showed signs of it. Schumacher showed signs of it. I don't think Verstappen's in the wrong. I just don't think he lets things go. I think that's the only problem. I think they play on his mind. I think he's a perfectionist. I think that's the best way of describing him. Everything has to go right. And if something little, he could win a race by 40 seconds, but if it's not 45 seconds, then it will just play on his mind. I think he's one of those people, and I don't think it's a problem until he lets it out on other drivers. So, for example, Russell,
live broadcasts.
Yeah, it was a bit, but then other drivers do as well. Like, look at you remember Hulkenberg and Magnussen, the two current drivers. Mate. Was it? Yeah. So other drivers do it. I think there's just because there's so much.
Oh, Siri's
piping
up as well.
Instead of suck my balls, and Siri's like, I found them.
Because there's current spotlight on Verstappen, because like all the spotlight Formula 1 is on him.
See, Leo, that was going to be my second question. So let me just ask my question, which might answer yours, Josh. Do you believe then, after the incident that enthralled, do you believe that this Red Bull made it so much more of a thing to take away from Checo's, or no, maybe not even Red Bull, because there is definitely a disparity between where Red Bull sit as a team. Like, I didn't hear Christian Horner once congratulate Checo on live broadcast. I did hear it from Max and him saying, he said as well, the way he said it and all those kind of things. And I clipped it on Sky. I recorded it, round it back. He spoke 7 minutes about Max after the sprint qualifying, or the qualifying sprint, whatever you call it. Spent 7 minutes talking about the incident with George, and then he remembered after Naomi Schiff said, "Oh, what about Checo, your guy that actually won?" And he was like, "Oh yes, we must congratulate Checo." And it's almost like, as well as the race, the incidents happen. And it's all about Max, only Max, only Max, only Max, only Max. And then Checo sort of doesn't even get talked about. Do you think that's played by Red Bull at the moment, especially with how close they are?
I'm going to let Leo jump in because I know he's going to say about the safety car.
No, I'm not actually. I'm going to mention, well, kind of am. It's just the fact what Horner said. Horner was like, yeah, well, Checo got lucky with the safety car. I'm sort of like, that's your driver. Why are you saying, oh yeah, he got lucky and safety car? He did get lucky a bit, but you don't just say that, do you, on over the radio? Yeah, I'm sorry about that, mate. Your teammate just got lucky, but you're better than him. You just got lucky.
I don't understand it.
That's what it
weird.
comes across
That's
like.
two times. Two times this weekend. Two times. Race and sprint race.
Yeah, it's obviously we all know Verstappen is the better driver out of the both of them, but when the team makes that clear as well, it's not.
It reminds me of a more emotionally driven Mercedes as an example with Bottas, where Bottas was very clearly number 2 driver. Every now and again he'd have his day, right? Rarely. And the same as Perez. Perez, I think, is better than Bottas in general in a high-performing car. But I think when you look at the way that they treated each other, the team treated Bottas in Mercedes, Bottas knew the role. And Mercedes on his day would be like, yeah, go for it, race. But you look at Perez, on the other hand, exactly what you were saying there, where Red Bull seemingly don't treat him like that. Obviously, behind closed doors, we don't know. But you've got Horner, you've got Marco. Maybe not so much Marco. We don't see him being as vocal anymore. So, but
I know he seemed quite happy with Perez after the race.
Yeah, I
gave him a hug, didn't he?
Yeah, I clocked that.
Yeah, I don't think you can discredit Marco for this weekend.
Well, you look back at even in Jeddah though, with
happy with his team, but
what's his face? I won't mention his name. The father of Max.
We don't talk about him.
Yeah, we don't give him a platform. He's exactly the same, isn't he? Like, it's kind of like Horner vibes. Obviously, he's going to be for his son, but if you look at even Checo's dad, he's like hugging and kissing everybody, even if Checo gets full.
It does feel strange, but
yeah,
because we're not here to Red Bull and Max bash at all.
It's not bashing. I wouldn't say it's bashing.
Maybe Red Bull, but Max, I think he just had an off day. I think his day was off.
Do you know what? I would go a little bit further than that. I would say Max had a weekend to not forget, but he had a weekend to learn from. But I think
unhinged, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think the
he's coming to Miami and winning by 40 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's another street track, isn't it? So Checo could have his car marked, but I think almost
car park track.
I think Checo might have a number on him for the next couple of races, especially at these tracks. And Checo, let's give him credit where Red Bull don't. He had an immense weekend. 2 races, 2 race wins, everything flawless. There was no issues with Checo once.
And he's the only driver to win Baku twice.
Yeah.
No other driver.
He deserves so much more credit than he's getting from his team.
Hard track to win at twice.
But I do think Verstappen has that fight in him now, which I love to see because I do really like Verstappen. So I think he'll just go and dominate. I do actually, yeah.
Do you?
I do. I actually really like Verstappen. Yeah,
nice hat.
That's why I got the hat.
So,
obviously,
guys, because we've been talking about the Azerbaijan Grand Prix and not just Red Bull, we are going to do our high performer, low performer. So, we'd usually go with, I don't know, 3 people that are high performers this weekend, 3 that are low. What would you say? We'll just do one at a time. My opinion with a high performer. I think high performance once again. Fernando Alonso. Oh, what a drive that he did again. P4 solid. Could have been P3.
I was going to say, I think personally he misjudged what he was planning on doing. He waited so long to attack Charles, and then done it almost like 3 or 4 laps too late. Did you see what
Charles said though afterwards?
Yeah, I did.
He
but
knew
he
what
was
Fernando's
late.
plan was,
yeah,
so he did counter it a little bit.
That's
as well.
what I meant. So
I think if
it was good, but it wasn't quite good enough. But I can see why you say it, but I just think he got caught a little bit.
The fact that he had like 8 or 9 laps to make a 4.5 second gap on the Ferrari that was quicker in Leclerc's hands that weekend, I think it's mega impressive. The overtake on Sainz was the most impressive overtake of the entire weekend. That move was nuts. And then just some of his raw pace, and again being able to pressure in the right environments. So he's one of my performers. Leo, give me one of your high performers.
I'm basing this purely off the race, but I'm going to go Tsunoda. Right, and I'll tell you why. That AlphaTauri is dreadful.
Worst car on the grid. And
yet he finished 10th of it today. He carried that tractor around whilst his teammate. Well, we're not going to talk about low performers yet, but yeah, I genuinely think. Obviously, he had the accident yesterday or Saturday with the problem with the tyre, which wouldn't stop rolling.
That was so weird, wasn't
but
it?
Yeah, I do feel like his performance went amiss today. 10th in that car, I think it was impressive.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Josh, what's your high performer?
To be fair, I was just reminding myself of the lineup here. I think a high performer that is getting missed a little bit. I know you mentioned Alonso, but I think Stroll had a really good race for him. Like had a really bad weekend on the run up, like in the sprint and the qualifying, had no DRS. And obviously he's not the same caliber as Alonso, but he gave it to both Mercedes' a point.
Finished in front of Russell.
Yeah, finished in front of Russell. Got a good overtake.
Lewis
on Russell
only
as
got
well.
in front because Stroll made a mistake.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if it's related to Alonso's brake ballast update he gave him or whatnot, which could have sent him coming out of turn 16. I don't know if that was the case or not.
Great stuff.
But it was kind of a coincidence that happened around the same 2 or 3 minutes. But yeah, I'd say Stroll.
Do you reckon
could be a good one.
Do you think Stoffel Van Dorn is sitting at home like, why can I get that Alonso? He ruined my career.
He's been really nice, isn't he? He's been really nice.
Maybe it's because, his dad owns the team.
Maybe.
It could be like, I've got to be nice to this guy. He can tell me if I'm kicked out.
He wants that pay rise. That's what he wants.
Yeah. You got bloody Van Dorn there. Could have told me how to do that, mate. You killed my F1 career.
Well, it could have been the reason why he went off.
Stroll's a good shout. Also that, yeah.
Could have been. He went straight back, literally put it back. Control Z.
Yeah, Stroll's a good shout for high performer. He's actually been doing really well.
I was saying in our last pod as well.
Apart from the times he's nearly rear-ended people.
Yeah. I think he's been a little. He's growing on me a lot, and I used to be one of the people that used to really dislike him as a character. But he's growing on me a lot.
That's what happens, yeah.
And I think I want to give him the benefit of the doubt for being. Comes across as a bit of a knob,
pay driver.
Yeah, but he over accentuates the pay driver element. When, to be fair, a lot of the races in here, like Norris and maybe Ross, they all are in their own way.
Wait, there's only one Leo's favourite driver. There's only one that isn't a paid for driver.
Which one are we talking about? Him or him?
Well, technically, Max is a paid driver, isn't he? He ain't gonna get it out of his dad's money.
Max was born a Formula One driver. That's the difference. That was his job was that from birth. Yeah, the Ocon was the only other guy where his family had to mortgage their house and travel to be able to fund his career.
Are we talking about Esteban Ocon?
Calm down. Calm down.
Did anyone see the laptop lid just go up?
Yep. So some low performers. I'm gonna go out there and say low performer once again is Bottas. What is he doing?
Oh my god! I'm so glad you've got
focus on the mullet again. Too much.
It's the DUI. You can't. But I don't. Yeah. I really don't understand. I said this to Sarah earlier on about Bottas. It's almost like he doesn't want to be a Formula One driver anymore. Like he's there just poodling around in the back.
Reminds me. Wait, hold on. Another Finn that did that in that exact same seat.
Kimi.
It's exactly what
but he was allowed to do that. He was a world champion.
World champion, 20 years of service. Kushti, get out of here.
Do you think he wants to be there?
Yeah.
Like not in the car physically, but here in Formula One? Because he's just not doing it.
Yeah, I think he does, but doesn't deserve it.
No.
In the comments, put them in the comments. Do you think Bottas and TikTok listeners... do you think Bottas deserves to be in Formula One with his performances following 2021? Because arguably Bottas was one of the most instrumental ways that Lewis Hamilton lost that championship. Lewis had no rear gunner at all in 2021, and Perez did it for Max. TikTokers, commenters on YouTube, let me know what you think about that one.
Good shout.
Sorry, boys. I was talking to the viewers then. Forgot you were here. They know better than all of us anyway.
Yeah, I think they do anyway.
Yeah, boys. Yeah, boys. Let's
I'm going to do my low performer because Leo's struggling to get his words out then. I don't really want to put this one here because it feels a bit like out of place because he finished 5th, but Sainz had a terrible weekend. And I know he beat the Mercedes, he beat the other Aston Martin. I feel in
comparison to Leclerc.
Yeah, I mean in comparison to Leclerc, but this is the weekend. But in terms of the race, both of them together, I'm probably going to put the McLarens. Like they just had they had a good raw pace in sprint qualifying and in the qualifying.
McLaren bashing.
Yeah, but I'm not going to name names. But they both had a bad weekend, and I think they got stuck in a bit of a DRS train as well, which doesn't help with the new Baku train.
That DRS train lasted forever.
Yeah.
That was, I think it eventually unleashed, and you saw them all unleash when Hulkenberg's suddenly tyres fell off the cliff at the end of the race.
Just everyone's up.
It went from 10th to like 16th.
Yeah, literally.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
DRS trains, though, why are they...
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
It really doesn't. When you think of the logistics behind it, a DRS train makes no sense.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to put Sainz on there, but I think... he's lucky to get 5th. I think the Mercedes was just too slow on the straights, and there was opportunities for Lewis to get past every time. Got down to like 7/10 and then 5/10. You think, he might get an overtake done in, and then on the straight it was like, has this Mercedes just got a Ford Fiesta engine, or something? Because it's just not got the guts to get over it. So yeah, I think Sainz
1.2 litre diesel.
Yeah, it felt like it. But I think Sainz...
That's what it sounded like sometimes.
If they had a decent engine today, I think Sainz would have probably dropped back behind Russell if he got caught by Lewis, because they would have been battling.
Do you think...
Personally.
Do you think Sainz is lacking confidence, or...
No, I just think he's lacking talent.
Pace. That's the pace, I think, on him just don't seem to be there. It's just a big skill issue at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think Sainz is finally kind of being shown that Sainz is a mediocre driver. I always said it. I didn't rate him. Even when he was in McLaren, when he was in Renault, Toro Rosso, he wasn't let's yeah. It's because Leo thought last year he was going to win the championship. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you talking about?
Well, Josh, you said this in the past, though. He's a race winner, but he's not championship quality. He's not there.
No. Well, he's not a championship driver. I couldn't see Carlos Sainz fighting for a championship all season long, especially when his teammate is Leclerc, who I can see fighting for a championship all season long. And would Ferrari look at changing Sainz out? His contract is up this year, I believe.
No, for next year.
Next year, one of them. Who would they replace? I don't really know. There's not really anyone who I think I would say would jump back into Ferrari.
Maldonado
come back. Mika Hakkinen comes back off his thing.
Well, you say that. There's a lot of rumours about Leclerc and Hamilton, isn't there, at the moment, going around?
Yeah, but I don't think Hamilton's leaving. If Mercedes deliver him another absolute garbo next year, which I don't think they literally can't, unless they pull a McLaren and just bin their entire team off, which I imagine Mercedes would just pull funding and be like, no, we're done. But I think the Leclerc Hamilton stuff, I don't think that Hamilton's doing that. I think he might want to finish his career for a season in Ferrari, just as a hey-ho. I drove for the red team. I love the red team. And then, I don't know. I could pick. I really don't know I could pick. But we're not going to talk about who's Ferrari's next driver. We're going to talk about Leo's low performer.
Nick de Vries.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
it's a weekly thing now, isn't it? It's a weekly thing.
He gaslighted us.
I don't look at myself as a rookie.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to him. Like, he does that in Monza, like, finishes, 9th, has a banging race, comes here, and you'd think he's never driven a Formula 1 car before. He just lacks confidence, like,
talent.
for sprint shootout, just put it into a wall because why not? And then today, just put it into a wall because again, why not?
In all fairness, though, Gasly did the same, and he's really experienced.
Gasly had no practice though.
Yeah, I was going to say
Gasly's car blew up in 10 minutes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, and it's the worst time to do it.
Yeah.
No other practice session. You got to do qualifying and a race. And you can't set your car up. He's screwed. He had no setup. He had to go default balanced F1 game setup.
But when you've got Tsunoda doing that in that AlphaTauri, finishing in the points, and then as you put it into a wall, questions are going to start being asked. I don't think he lost to the end of the season, unfortunately.
Do you think?
Well,
Wow.
no, so I think he lost the season.
Oh.
I think he lost the season.
That's it.
But that's it. Sorry.
There's nothing else.
It's still a big take.
I don't think they give him another year.
Yeah, it's fair.
What a lot of people thought Nick de Vries was, he is proving to be. A lot of people were like, there's a reason he hasn't been. He got his championship. It took him 3 years to get his championship in Formula 2. And he had to wait till the grid had no mega talent. And then he finally got his win and he went to Formula E and he won that. And people were like, he's F1 material surely. But again, AlphaTauri is a very Red Bull team. De Vries is very integrated into the Mercedes ecosystem.
Yeah.
And AlphaTauri right now is terrible. So
yeah, but AlphaTauri is terrible, but Tsunoda's still putting it into the points. You know what I mean? two races in a row. He put it into the points in Australia, didn't he? Because I know there was a thing about him finishing 11th, and then I'm pretty sure he finished 10th as well. But yeah, no, I don't know. I know it's so gutting as well because he does have talent, but
he does do.
I don't know what's happening.
The championships in other categories prove it, but I do think he's either a slow burner and will then speed up. I do also think Formula One, especially on these weekends, is so hard for rookie drivers.
But he's 27 years old. He's not rookie.
He's not a rookie, is he? He's not a rookie.
He said himself he's not a rookie.
Yeah,
if you're not a rookie and you're doing this, So and also it's the Red Bull way in it. Red Bull give him a year and then be like, yeah, no, see you later. And then
because Red Bull and the other downside of Red Bull, downside and upside, they've got so much then on the wing talent. Liam Lawson is looking at that seat like, that's mine.
Yeah,
that's mine next year. That's my seat.
Who is that kid in Formula 2 who was it Ollie? I can't remember.
Oliver Behrman, yeah.
Dominated this weekend. Who is he? Ferrari?
I think didn't he dominate Jeddah as well? Talking to that, or did he crash? He had a really good weekend, I think, at Jeddah.
I think he's Ferrari.
Yeah, he is Ferrari, by the way.
Prema, isn't he?
Yeah, Prema.
Yeah. So Ollie Behrman.
He's very young. Isn't he?
Porsche, I think, has thrown away his chance.
Oliver Behrman, 18.
Sorry,
Teo Porsche. Ooh.
Yeah, I think he's thrown away his Formula 1 chance. But we're not talking about that. No. It's the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Just quickly, listeners, comment on how good that national anthem was. I thought it was banging. One of the best ones we've had.
I missed it. I didn't.
So good. It's like I was watching a film. I thought I was watching Gladiator for a minute. I was like, oh. And then they spun around with the colours of the flag. Oh, chef's kiss. Anyway, I think we could talk about this now. What the fuck were the FIA doing with the thing at the end?
They're investigating themselves as well.
Yeah, again.
Actually, before that, Red Bull climbed the fence.
Yep.
Are we going to get anything for that?
Probably not.
Of course not.
And then Ocon nearly drove into people on the... What
But that was caused by Red Bull, wasn't it? They're saying that the Red Bull team mechanics were rushing onto the thing because Checo and Max were going to finish 1 and 2, and then which set off the photographers or something, and they started putting barriers up.
Yeah,
because people going to the podium.
And that's the thing. The FIA were putting the barriers.
Yeah,
up.
exactly. It's not the photographers. Yeah, exactly.
They were the ones. You'd know that the race is finished because the race is finished. You got cars still hurtling down there. I mean, yeah, it's the pit lane, luckily, but it's blind, that pit lane, until you come round. And then Ocon was probably like, what the hell's going on?
Someone could have been seriously injured there again. Well, not again, but someone
right at the last,
seriously injured.
At the last minute, you see a camera person
dive out of the way.
Jump out of the way.
Jump, clearly shit himself all of a sudden, like, oh my God. So yeah, they were lucky today. They were.
What do we
very,
think the
very
outcome of
lucky.
that is going to be,
They
though?
keep getting away.
I don't think there's going to be anything.
Nothing,
Yeah,
because
nothing.
it's the FIA.
Yeah.
Investigate themselves and say we were wrong. Correct. Anyway,
Move on.
An organisation that's all about safety now, and then they do that.
But
You
this
know what
is-
I mean? Not that they brought in those new rules about climbing on the fence, and if they don't punish it this time, then what's the point?
and you know what's hilarious?
Literally.
They brought in the rules for climbing the fence for a safety reason. People climb the fence and it caused a safety problem.
Yeah.
Therefore, that rule clearly actually got brought in for a good reason. And I think, as a little like maybe tinfoil hat, is that the photographers were like, well, they can't climb the fence. Or they're climbing the fence, so the race must be over. But they can't climb the fence. Well, maybe it's finished. Oh, okay.
Well,
And
like
they
you
just
said,
went
Josh,
out.
the FIA guys are putting the barriers up, so they've been instructed. They're just following what they've been
Yeah.
told to do. So, yeah, again,
Did you
yet
get
again, the
that
FIA
whole
focusing on
He
the
was
wrong
getting
areas.
well happy, wasn't he?
He panicked.
Oh, Ted,
he was
yeah.
like, oh my God, there's people coming out. Oh my God, oh my God, there's people, there's cameras.
Ted, yeah,
There's cameramen on the track.
yeah. But the sad thing about it, the way the coverage was set out, you're like on turn 15, and you're going, I want to see the pit lane, and then it cut, and then everyone's like, Ocon's like streaming through, still doing like 60 mile an hour. You're like,
They did it.
whoa.
They literally did it in the most dramatic way as well. They built up Ted going nuts.
Yeah.
And then they suddenly threw you on Ocon's car like an onboard.
Yeah.
So in case he hit someone, you got the full picture. I'm like, what are they doing?
This is amazing.
It's like someone's leg could come off here. Like the minimum speed is, 50 miles an hour? Because I think it's 70 kilometres an hour in
I
there
think
or
it
something.
says 60,
So
yeah, 60
that's
km.
enough to like,
Right. So still
so
decent
yeah, about
speed.
40, 45 mile an hour. You're still going to get really injured. And one of them cars will suck you underneath. Probably. I'm like, did they go full on board? Let's watch them. Mental.
Yeah,
But
classic
once again,
FIA.
the FIA causing shambolic fumbles as per usual.
But what's
with
annoying
a
though
consistent
is
thing.
that they had a relatively calm, collected weekend from themselves, and then they let it go on the last lap.
Yeah,
Classic.
of course. Yeah. So much racing to manage, and they bottled it at the last minute. It's like they were a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
They just cannot help but fuck something up.
Yeah, literally.
Just it begs belief. The other thing I was going to say was high performers, low performers, teams now. So high performing team, I would probably give, to be fair, a lot of them were very normal. There was no standouts. You could obviously give high performers to Red Bull, but it is what it is.
Can I do my one?
They're
I
always going to perform
I can go
highly.
really quickly.
Yeah, if you got one,
So
go for
I
it.
want to give it to Ferrari, and it's all. I know what I said about Sainz, but it's more to for Leclerc.
That was literally my only other one.
Same.
Leclerc had a wicked weekend in that car, and did you hear over the radio when he got P1? He was talking about team management and all this kind of stuff. It was a bit odd, like what he was saying, and that's why I remember it quite well. He's like, fantastic management, fantastic this and fantastic that. It's almost like he's been paid to say it by Fred. But they've obviously done something right with the car as well, because the car he's had good pace this weekend, or Leclerc had just good pace, and obviously got pole. But there's definitely something going on internally, because is it Lauren McKees? He's left, and Ferrari didn't know. But there's definitely something going on in the correct way with what Fred's doing. But there's also something happening in a negative way with people leaving to go to a better team or well-funded team. But yeah, they had a good weekend for Ferrari. No pit stop errors there either, which is also great.
True, yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, they didn't have a pit stop fumble. And again, they had more pit stops than they would usually have to do. That's true. A high-performing team that performed highly and then fumbled, but I actually think showed some promise, was Haas. Like, they were both running relatively high. You had, obviously, Hülkenberg with that strategy that didn't pay off, which might as well gamble it. But they seemed, from where they would be relatively right. Like, if you look at it, Alpine, stinker, apart from Ocon, you had Alfa Romeo, stinker. Williams somehow dropped the ball. That's my low performance.
Yeah, I was going to say, but Williams started good though, didn't they? They had Albon was in a really good position, and then I think he had a little moment with somebody, and then that was it in his race. But he had a quick car, and then all of a sudden he was there, and then he wasn't, and then he finished like 13th. Strange.
Yeah, this is mental. Leo, high performer before I tangent.
I'm gonna give it to Aston Martin because Friday and Saturday qualifying, the shootouts or whatever you call them, they had, it all went wrong. You had the problems, you had DRS problems and all that, and yet they still finished relatively good. Like Stroll in the race finished just behind Hamilton, and then you got Alonso finishing 4th. So I feel like they recovered really well.
Do you know what? I'm glad you said that because in the qualifying, Lance didn't have DRS, but I remember vividly, again, Alonso being very helpful, doing an extra lap on them tyres to help Lance have a draft all the way up the straight to get him to be in Q3. Don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
Captain Alonso again.
Really good teamwork. Alonso's
becoming really likeable, isn't
it? Annoyingly.
Yeah, I said this, didn't I? When he first came back, and you're like, I hate Alonso so much, like that. But I said that being in WEC has changed him to understand how team play works. WEC is all about, you can only be as strong as your team. Doesn't matter how quick you are as a driver. Your stint ends, you're out of the car. You've got to be team focused, and I think that's really taught him how to play as a team, like that is with Lance Stroll. Could you imagine him doing that to Lewis? The McLaren days? Not going to happen. No chance. Absolutely no chance. In fact, he held him up so he couldn't get to Q3. Yeah. So, so there's him doing that with any other teammate that he's had in his career. It's just not going to work. So, yeah, I think being in WEC has shown him, well, this is what team plays like. In my head, I was just going through all of Alonso's teammates, and I was like, fuck it, hell. That's a lot of teammates. It's an awful lot of people he's been in a team with. So, yeah, but no, Aston Martin high performance.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, again, pretty easy to pick for the whole year, I'd say. It's from where they were relative last year. How much of that do you reckon was Seb's development?
I think quite a lot. I think Seb's development gets slept on a lot. Obviously, they have done and hired well, and they've done a lot of work and things. But I think if you take Alonso out, put Seb back in his car, I think he's exactly where Alonso is. Not going to lie. Maybe, to be fair, maybe not as quick. I think Alonso's got the edge, personally. But yeah, I think Seb's input.
Less mistake prone is Alonso.
Yeah. Seb can have a really
Seb's quite a mistake prone driver.
Seb can have a good weekend, whereas Alonso can have a great weekend and get a lot from it.
Wouldn't that be good if they were just like Stroll was a little bit ill on one of the days?
Yeah, Seb turned up.
Wouldn't it be good if Stroll was a little bit ill?
What, for the rest of the year?
You know what I mean? And I just threw Seb in the car. Yeah. Alonso versus Seb. What a great time. What a great time. That'd be a vibe. Yeah, I think that's 100%. Josh, what's your low performer?
Mercedes.
Yeah.
They dropped. I don't know what they did this weekend, and I'm a Mercedes fan and a Lewis fan, but they fucked it completely. Like, the first pit stop, okay, Lewis always gets unlucky with safety cars, besides the point, but his pit stop to put him behind traffic with DRS, 4 cars or whatever it was, pathetic timing. Like, come on. Anyone can see that if you did a bit of stop watching. George obviously had a really terrible qualifying, 0.004, whatever it was. Like, there's pace there to be better than 10th and 11th. Like, you could easily put that car.
And wasn't it Lewis that knocked him out?
Yeah,
as well?
Exactly. So that car can do more, clearly. George obviously had his moment with Max, which is obviously going to put him on the back foot at the weekend with a little bit of confidence, because he's almost been put in his place about, what he should do with his car, etc. So he might not do that thing again. And maybe the stewards might have been watching him as well, knowing he's got an incident in him following that. But yeah, he couldn't get Lance Stroll in technically a customer car. You could almost claim. And Mercedes, again, I know that they keep saying about these upgrades in Imola, but they keep making mistakes. Even
they need a magic wand.
Yeah, they need more than upgrades and a magic wand. But they keep making silly issues for themselves. I don't know why. Silly. But yeah.
They keep fumbling. I think they need to get used to being at the back a lot more. Not
I've
being
got a
at the
question,
front. They
just-
still feel like they're Mercedes from
Just while we're
2020.
talking about Mercedes, do we think that they have an issue when they're following cars still with the way the car has been designed with overheating? Because they cannot get that working well behind someone.
I think it's how tightly packed it all is, isn't it?
Do you believe?
Overheats very, very quickly.
I've got a question
Yeah,
after
I
you
think
guys done your
that's-
low performers, by the way, and it's more to do with the cars. So I'll hold on to this one.
Oh, okay. Right, Leo, what's your low performer?
Alfa Romeo.
Yep, easy clap.
Yeah. Nice.
There's so many low performers, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was such a boring race, but Alfa Romeo, you're right. Bottas just doesn't. It's just not there anymore. And then Zhou didn't have the best of weekends, so no, yeah, Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, low ones. So yeah, mine was Williams again. Should have been high and weren't. And just made, no head road at all with a car that should be quicker, especially at that track. Yeah. Josh, what was your question?
Yeah, so my question was about the cars. I know we did talking points about this, about the cars being too big, but I think this circuit and these...
Go check that out up here
Yeah,
in the
up
pin
there
somewhere.
or there, wherever it is. I think this track specifically caught these cars lacking this weekend. The race itself is a massive underperformer. It was such a dull race compared to previous examples, and it's a dull race compared to something like Australia, who we thought that it might be a bit crap, but and even like Jeddah, for example, another street circuit, like proper street circuit, because kind of Australia isn't. Just really like didn't live up to expectations of what everyone believed it would have. I remember after the safety car, like 30, 40 laps, I sort of half falling asleep thinking, when will this almost needs another pit stop, just to liven it up, because the safety car took it away from us. And my question...
Hard tyres again.
Yeah, hard tyres again. But my question is, now that they've seen how the cars are going to race, like we've seen Red Bull's true performance, right, this weekend. They had a 20 seconds gap to Ferrari in front, and that was just them being faster in each other, say fast lap after fast lap. Do we think that this era of car or this reg of car is, and these circuits are holding the racing back, and do they need to make like an not even just to benefit like the Lewis shaggers that are out there or the Mercedes shaggers, not even to do
you.
Yeah, not even for me. I'm just talking in general, because from Ferrari backwards, everyone is on pace with each other. There might be a smaller gap, like a second or two, where like more wind tunnel time from Williams in the next year could make a difference to, jump up to like beyond Haas and, race potentially like McLaren and things like that. But the Red Bull is so quick, and they still can't really race that well together anyway, because their cars are so big at circuits like this.
The biggest thing, I can't remember who it was. I feel like it might have been Karun or maybe it was Damon Hill. I can't remember, but they said the cars have more downforce this year. With more downforce comes more drag, comes more dirty air. And can the cars follow? They look very similar to how they used to look in 2020, 2019, where cars would get behind and they can't overtake. We thought DRS trains wouldn't exist with this regulation because you shouldn't get that differential coming out of a corner with less downforce. You should be only having a 20% loss, not an 80% loss. But it seems like they're all struggling out of corners. I mean, perfect example was Lewis and Sainz, right? And they mentioned about Sainz having a really good front end, but Sainz had no one in front of him. Lewis had Sainz in front of him. As soon as he got to corners, Lewis dropped, because he literally couldn't probably keep that car stable because of the dirty air coming off the back of it. And I think we're back to this dirty air conversation that, like you said, the size of the cars, the style of the track. It's not a track that you can commit. It's bumpy as well. Even though I think they laid a new bit of tarmac in places, it's still bumpy. It's not a racing track. Very similar to, Mercedes went to Spain and they were really competitive because Spain is a racing track. And I think they'll probably have the very same sort of issues at Miami, where, again, a lot of the sectors are long sweeping corners and with dirty air.
To be fair,
one of the worst things to do is
because Miami is more or less Azerbaijan, but in the States, isn't it? Because it's got the long straight, tight section, which I know is sort of changed from last year. But yeah, I think you're quite right with that. I think we're going to see the same race.
Sector 1, 2 and 3 are very similar.
Very similar, just organised differently.
And I think, it's going to be very processional. The DRS zones, I mean, they might help a little bit because the second one in Baku is nearly useless most of the time. It just gets you closer to then fall further back through the end of Sector 2 and Sector 3's start, or Sector 1 and Sector 2. That DRS zone is pretty useless, to where at least Miami, I think, has 3 DRS zones. It's got the pit, it's got the back straight, and then a big back straight. So that might cause a little bit more, that just might make the Red Bulls even faster if they're racing each other away. So, and everybody else will just stay still. Yeah, I do think that next one is going to be very, very similar for that reason.
What do you think, Leo?
And that's why the cars, I think, are struggling.
They're heavy. They're so heavy. And this is why I think they struggle.
A ton, aren't they, nearly?
They're 800 kg, I think.
Heavy and big?
Yeah, 800.
Because they're so fucking wide.
Yeah. But when you've got tracks like Saudi, Baku, which could do with lighter cars, like the 2008 cars, for example, like the late 2000 cars, which could just fly around these corners, that it'd be perfect for those kind of cars, not these cars. When they weigh 800 kg, they've got the turning circle of a brick. So, I don't know. I feel like there's nothing wrong with a team dominating, because look at the start of the hybrid era. You had 2014, 2015, Mercedes just dominated.
But that was
like to say, though, I didn't
Formula 1
start
mentality.
my thing, though, with that. I'm not saying it's to stop Red Bull. I mean, it's to help the racing, because this weekend, this
Close
race,
everybody up.
outside of the Red Bull,
Close,
to be fair,
except for Red Bull.
No, it's not, though, is it? Because even if it's close, they still can't overtake. And it goes back to Josh's point about I'm not too fussed that Red Bull are going to have a dominant period, because I think in reality Formula 1 just has dominant. If you build a good car, you're going to win. If you've got a fantastic race, you're going to win races. Easy as that. But the regs were developed by Ross Brawn and the team that he had around him to bring racing closer together and make it easier to overtake. And what we've seen, especially from this race, is that it's not possible. It doesn't bring anything closer, because if anything, they're further apart.
Do you know what I think?
Go on.
I think an easy way to stop it without hindering anyone's performance, whatever Red Bull have on a DRS,
give it to everybody.
Make it open source. Make it that's your, like DAS. They said DAS is too expensive to do. Ban it or make it open source. Basically, it could have been a thing. I think they just banned it straight out in the end. But if you said, look, everybody can use this system, same as whatever that DRS does, my theory with their DRS is that their car is designed around DRS, because the Red Bull without DRS is a normal car. That DRS opens and it goes into hyperdrive. It's ridiculous.
So you're saying that a Formula 1 car without DRS is a slower car?
Yes. Yes. What I mean is the Red Bull, when it's got no DRS, is bloody W Leo. But the DRS of the Red Bull is the strong. It is the DRS.
Josh,
is the
do you remember
W
last time when we were talking about Mercedes and we were saying what's their gimmick? I think I know we were trying to question what Red Bull's gimmick is. I think we kind of know DRS isn't a gimmick, but what they have with their DRS is the gimmick that they have this season. Like, it's
whatever
just
it does,
ridiculous.
How do they get so much pace?
Because as soon as that
they did.
lap 3 came and Max Verstappen had DRS, Charles was gone. Everyone knew it was like lap 4 is ended. That's it. That's the race.
They did stuff and tests on the car in Australia. Did you see that?
No.
What was it?
The FIA did some checks on the car, and then it came back like everything was all right. I don't know what they did check, but they checked in the car, and then you had all the Red Bull fans go, "Oh yeah, our rocket ship is legal," and all that, all on Twitter and all.
Oh, it's legal. But it's just what they've done is just it's like Nui and the design aero team has done an amazing job getting it to work like that. But I think it doesn't help anyone, because the rest of the field can't spend that much to bring that in there. So maybe it should become open source, like the DAS conversation from a couple of years ago. Too expensive.
Without sticking up for Red Bulls too much, I just think that obviously DAS was a separate innovation, whilst Red Bull have just designed a good working part which is on every single car. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know whether it should be open source. I just think they've done a better job than everyone else. But you're going to get out of every regulation.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to make slowing down or catching everybody up easier. Is that this is what they've done. You know, like this is their special sauce, as you will. You can now copy that. It might not work in your philosophy, but it might work in your philosophy. But here's the thing: look at Aston Martin, right? They suddenly scrapped their idea, very much took their philosophy from the Red Bull, the RB 1918, whatever it was last year. They took that philosophy, and now look at where they are, and they built upon it with their own style. And I think that's we're going to see in Imola a Mercedes with side pods. Everybody knows that.
Put it this way: if the side pods worked, do you think the side pod should have been banned? Like the no side pod should have been banned? If they worked and they weren't.
I've been saying this for weeks. It's got nothing to do with side pods. If they put side pods back on, it's literally to appease the Mercedes fans who are getting bent out of shape by saying, well, the side pods are the reason why you're slow. It's not. It really isn't.
No, but let's say that concept did work. Would you expect them to ban that?
No, I'd again use that same philosophy as here's the reason why you could do this. You know, you could do that. Much like you could change your car into that zero side pods, much like Red Bull were hell bent on not going low rake. You could go low rake and you would get performance, but Red Bull were adamant we're not going low rake, so they didn't win any championships.
Yeah, that kind of carries off from that. I think they might have banned
they banned low rake.
I think they might have banned it if it was unbelievable, like the no side pod design, because I think Mercedes went into that season with that no side pods when they were like testing, oh, look at us, we've got side pods, and then bang, we got no side pods, and was like, oh my God, look at that car, it's got nothing on the sides. And then when it would come out on the race weekend, it was like bang, P7, you're like, not sure about that. And then you watched it fall down the order in the rest of the season, you're thinking, maybe not. But on the other hand, if they were P1 every week and 40 seconds, you'd go, the FIA probably would have gone, side pods, no side pods. Yeah, no, that's got to be banned. You have to have some sort of side pod, because that's what our original architecture was about. Yeah,
they would have tried to figure out a safety thing around it.
Because Mike Elliott at the time, I think I vaguely remember him saying it's not a outright bend of the regulation, but it's like an interpretation that they got right, which is legal, which I believe the FIA would have corrected and gone, no, that's not, that can't work that way, that can't run.
Yeah, I do think that's where most of Mercedes issues come from, their chassis design, the car design in general. Yeah. It's all over the field.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Because they brought back Allison, didn't they? It's clear.
Yeah, James Allison. Yeah. He probably walked in and was like, what have you guys done? What are you doing?
But Ted Kravitz made a really good point, though. They with Mercedes, just really quickly before we start to wrap up, with Mike Elliott, they've given him a promotion sideways, which is really bizarre. Even though you would almost classify this as a failure because the car's not where it should be. Like, they should be challenging ones and twos. But the car is so slow with that philosophy, which he was leading, and he's got a promotion and James Allison's come back in. You would almost feel that that's sort of not a sackable offence, but definitely something that shouldn't have worked out the way that happened.
Material.
But it's,
get back into the paint room, basically.
Not sure. Anyway.
But just before we wrap up the show, quick prediction for race winner or top three for next week in Miami. I'm going to start Perez, Max, Alonso. Done.
I'm going to go Perez, Alonso, Max. But you could swap those three. I think it's Perez.
No, that's your take. You can't swap.
No, I'm saying that if we were going to talk about it, they would swap.
No. Go on, Leo.
Bottas, Nick Degrees,
followed by Logan Sargent.
Max, Perez, Leclerc.
Max, Perez, Leclerc. Okay, Ferrari keeping the form. I think the Ferrari are going to drop the ball next.
Yeah, can't get away with like two whole races and not make a mistake. No way.
Yep, no way. They'll bin it in the pit stop as usual. They'll drive in backwards, put wet on, put wet spin.
Yeah, I don't. They'll do a 1v1 reverse versus forward.
Yeah, exactly. Right, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning in to the podcast this week. Thank God we finally had a Formula One race. Azerbaijan has been here and it's gone. Next one is Miami. Tune in next week for another race review. And this will be going out. When's this going out, Josh? It's tomorrow, isn't it?
Tuesday.
Monday.
No, Tuesday.
It's going out on Monday.
No,
so
no,
enjoy
Tuesday.
on your
Classic
bank holiday
Tuesdays.
if you're in the UK.
Enjoy your bank
Is it
holiday,
Tuesday?
and then we'll
We're gonna
hear
go
from you on
Classic
Tuesday.
Tuesdays. Enjoy bank holiday anyway. Everybody, have a lovely week. Goodbye. See you soon.